A bear broke into the neighborhood and started killing people indiscriminately. But I wasn't panicked at all. I even proactively opened my door to let it kill me. It turns out that a week ago, I transmigrated into a novel where a bear kills people. I learned in advance that in 1 week, a bear would enter the neighborhood and kill indiscriminately. The bear is highly intelligent, and can even threaten humans to assist it. I tried to leave the neighborhood, but found that every time I stepped out the main gate, I would be teleported back home. Even bear became a forbidden word. Whenever I said those words, they would be muted. I tried calling the police, but every call showed as unavailable. Since I couldn't call for help, I had to save myself. I contacted a renovation company, preparing to turn my home into an indestructible doomsday fortress. First were the walls and the door, all reinforced with 20 centimeters thick steel plates. Considering the weight-bearing issue, it wasn't solid inside, but rather alloy carbon fiber that even an anti-tank gun couldn't pierce. Next was waterproofing. The bear is smart. If it decided to flood the room, I would just be sitting there waiting to die, so I sealed the room. And even if it flooded, I left pipes for drainage. In the novel, the zoo director and the bear are accomplices, even tricking people into coming out to be eaten by the bear. I suspect he had already scouted the neighborhood. That's why the renovation materials were only delivered at night. To ensure construction efficiency, I specifically hired several construction teams to ensure 24-hour continuous work. I threw away everything useless in the house to ensure a clear line of sight. After the renovation, the living room looked like a giant cage. This is the prison I prepared for the bear. Once it enters, it can't get out. Besides that, I installed surveillance cameras throughout the hallway and lobby, allowing me to monitor the bear's movements randomly. I also installed solar power generation. If the bear cuts the power, I can still have electricity. I even bought some weapons for self-defense. I installed a shower head and air conditioning in the living room. The AC can reach a maximum temperature of 50 degrees. And the shower head is for fire prevention. Just trapping it isn't enough. I want to torture it severely. This time, I want to see whether this beast is the prey or the hunter. At 12 midnight, I heard the sound of unlock outside. Unlock failed. I glanced at the monitor, and found the bear leaning against the neighbor's door. It pressed its eye against the door, seemingly trying to see inside through the peephole. It tried the lock. The sound of a neighbor cursing rang out in the monitor, but the bear ignored them. The bear flew into a rage. It began smashing the door. If this were in the novel, I would have gone out to curse it long ago, and then been swatted to death by the bear. Just then, a notification popped up on my phone. Whatever you do, don't open the door. There seems to be a bear outside. I would know even if he didn't say it, because I could see everything clearly through the monitor. Then 802 sent another message. My door has already been smashed out of shape. I feel like it's about to fall apart. I saw your place was being renovated a few days ago. Can I hide on your reinforced balcony? In the original story, there was no plot of him contacting a neighbor. It seems my presence has caused the plot to deviate. But the other person has never met me. How did they know my home was reinforced? Sorry, the balcony is sealed. You can't come in. The other party kept typing. After a moment of silence, he sent a message. You really are at home. I didn't understand what he meant. But in this apocalypse, I dare not play the saint. In the monitor, the bear seemed a bit impatient. It turned around and started smashing my door. But my reinforced door was exceptionally hard. After smashing for a while, it stopped. Hee. If this door moves, I'd be betraying the online loan companies I scammed. Suddenly, the phone notification sounded again. People in the homeowners group started complaining. Who is it? Don't close it so noisy late at night. Will opening the door kill you? Keep knocking if you dare. I'll call property management. Are you even letting us sleep? At property management. One moment, seeing that it couldn't budge my door, the bear seemed to give up, and walked in another direction. At property management, the resolution speed is really fast. The noise stopped just now. The management fee wasn't paid in vain. This time, the property management didn't reply for a long while. Just when everyone thought everything was fine, suddenly, the property management started posting photos in the group. Those photos were random. Some were walls, some were hallways. The continuous photos caused the group to ping non-stop. Damn it. Not sleeping late at night, looking to die. I'll definitely report you tomorrow, to make you get lost. Just then, the property management sent another message in the group. He was covered in blood. His body was even folded over in a bizarre posture, as if he had been snapped in half. Suddenly, the group started to stir. UF *************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** sending this scary thing late at night. Truly sick. I'll pay the management fee next year. I'll be a dog. I quietly watched them curse at each other. But what was strange, was that the resident of 802, who warned me about the bear at the start, was now silent. Abnormal. Too abnormal. Then 802 sent me another message. Please open the door. While the bear is gone, I'm afraid it will come back. You saw the messages in the group. Please open the door. You know there's a bear. Why didn't you say it in the group? He kept emphasizing the terror of the bear, but he only wanted me to open the door to save him. The other party showed, typing, again. I waited for a long time, but he didn't reply. In the monitor, the bear returned once more, but this time, it was covered in blood stains. Human blood dripped down its fur, leaving a pool of blood on the ground. The bear pressed its eye against my peephole, wanting to see clearly inside the house. Management sent another group message, but this time it was indeed intermittent. Sorry, I randomly took. Open the door. Check 801. 801 is my home. I looked at the monitor. The bear seemed to be fiddling with something in its hand. Open the door 801. The property management kept repeating this phrase in the group, but the neighbors grew impatient, and started tagging me. 801. Why don't you just open the door and let him check? Once there's no abnormality, he'll leave. Can you be quiet for a while late at night? There's a bear in the hallway. Didn't you see that photo? The property manager has already been killed by it. What kind of joke is this? You mean the bear is taking photos and sending messages? Is today April Fool's Day? I've already warned you. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. This is the most I can help you. Just then, the group fell into silence. Just when I thought everything was fine, 802 posted a photo in the group. 802 posted a photo, but then quickly recalled it. 802, what did you send? You also live on the 8th floor. Is there a bear or not? Stop scaring people. First the photos, then the bear. 802 stopped talking in the group. Seeing this, I also remained silent. I've said everything that needed to be warned. The rest is up to fate. In the monitor, the bear found I didn't respond, and started smashing the door again. The force of the smashing grew stronger and stronger, but the door didn't budge an inch. The bear took 2 steps back. Then it slammed its entire body against the door. After a loud crash, the bear was bounced back by the massive force. It shook its head, seemingly not expecting that my door would be so sturdy. That hit was clearly quite severe. The bear put its eye to the peephole, but I had modified the peephole. A sharp spike shot out from the peephole. In pain, the bear let out a roar, and immediately began smashing the door with even more force. But its strength was useless against the door. Just now, what was that sound? What was that? A beast roaring. It sounded like the roar of some beast to me. Don't scare me. This is way too terrifying. The bear was thwarted, but it was helpless. It ended up walking elsewhere. It seems it's given up on me. Because of the sound just now. The group chat erupted again. At 801, what happened? I heard a roar. There couldn't really be a bear, right? I told you, but you didn't believe me. The bear has left my area. I don't know where it went. Damn it. Call the police. You still have the mood to chat. I already thought of that. But the police emergency line won't go through. It's really strange. Messages can be sent, but calls won't go through. Everyone, don't panic. My friend is a police officer. Although I can't call the police, I've sent him a message. He'll bring people over shortly. Everyone, hold on for 20 minutes. This 802 is too suspicious. Clearly the first one to discover the bear, yet didn't say a word, only now jumping in to speak, as if trying to soothe everyone. 802, you discovered the bear first. Why didn't you speak up? I directly raised my doubts, wanting to use public opinion to pressure him. I don't know what you're talking about. It's just that everyone in the group needed help, so I helped report it to the police. That's right, 802 didn't say anything. Right. 802 said nothing. You kept shouting about bears and deaths. Maybe I shouldn't have interfered. I won't get any benefit from this, and I'll just get myself dirty. This was a weird message sent by 201. I'm opening the door. Everything is fine. 201's words are the same as the property manager's after they were killed. It seems 201 has already been killed. See, I told you nothing was wrong. Only 801 has been fueling the fire. I think they have ulterior motives, wanting us to leave the building. Exactly, what bear? I think it's all 801's doing. Saying 802 has a problem is just the thief crying, thief. As expected, the most sinister thing is the human heart. Once they encounter the bear, they'll be quiet. 802 sent a private message. Please help me open the door. I beg you, I really can't hold on anymore. I ignored him, and instead turned to look at the monitor. That bear returned once again. The bear is extremely vengeful. It suffered several losses at my place in a row, so it won't let me off easily. Suddenly, it left the monitor's range again. However, when I looked at the window, I saw a huge black shadow. The bear had come to my window. This was the first time we met face to face. It couldn't see me clearly through the window, and was violently pounding on the window, while I brought over a chair, sat on it drinking cola, watching it with complete composure. Seeing me like this, the bear began to roar in anger. Scream louder. Haven't you eaten? The soundproofing of the glass is very good, but it seems it can read my lips. The force of the smashing grew stronger and stronger. Just then, the room fell into complete darkness. It turned out someone had pulled the power switch. The group chat is getting lively again. What happened? Do you guys have power over there? My power is out too. Did the main breaker trip? Hurry and notify the property management. What is the property management even doing? The discussion in the group grew more intense, but I simply turned on my self-power generation system. Luckily I built a self-power generation system. I'm not afraid of power outages at all. 801. Why does your place still have power? Although the other person lives next door, they shouldn't be able to see into my bedroom. Unless they are observing this building from the outside. I realized. The resident of 802 must not be inside the room right now. They must be observing from the outside. The entire building. Only my lights are on. There was no description of this person in the novel. It seems that because of my arrival, a series of butterfly effects have occurred. I thought, this person might be the zoo director. Only he. Watching from outside the building. I told you something was wrong with 801. Probably wants to trick us into coming out so he can steal things. Why aren't you speaking? Did I hit the nail on the head? Come out if you have the guts. Let's have a real man's showdown. I continued to choose to ignore him. But just then, the elevator opened. The elevator opened, and a yellow-haired kid holding a phone walked out. 801, stop pretending. I'm right at your door. Open the door if you have the guts. Making noise late at night. Do you really think no one can punish you? I saw through the monitor that he seemed to be live streaming. Shortly after, another message arrived on the phone. 701 shared their live stream. I clicked on it. It was him live streaming at my door. In the top left corner, it clearly said, dealing with a weird neighbor. Brothers, the neighbor won't sleep, and is still saying there's a bear in the group. I think he's just a lunatic. Besides, even if there is a bear, I'm not afraid. Brothers, send some small gifts. I'll start dealing with him immediately. He came to my door with his phone, and kicked the door twice. Open the door if you have the guts. Come out. You coward. I gave him a piece of advice in the group chat. Because the bear had already disappeared from my balcony, it would return indoors soon, but he continued to knock on the door and shout, "You coward. Let's see how many days you can hide in there. Remember to keep your tail between your legs from now on." Looking at his ridiculous expression, I burst out laughing. With my current supplies, I can hide in here for half a year. In the live stream room, the yellow-haired kid kept ranting, claiming he was protecting people, as if he were the embodiment of justice. Suddenly, a huge black shadow appeared behind him. The yellow-haired kid turned around, and what met his eyes was a 2-meter-tall bear. The bear slapped him away. Holy crap. There really is a bear. I was just about to go to the 8th floor to watch the fun. Luckily I didn't go out. When are the police coming? This is too terrifying. I just changed my pants and they're wet again. Naturally, the yellow-haired kid didn't survive. He passed out immediately after being slapped away. At this time, everyone in the owner's group started tagging 802. At 802, when will your police friend arrive? Remember to tell them to bring their gear. Yeah, hurry up and nudge them. But at this moment, 802 sent me a private message. My friend has arrived. Are you leaving or not? If you want to leave, come out now. I'll have him take you with him. I don't believe a word he says. Even in reality, no one is that kind. Let alone in a situation like this. I ignored him. He kept sending me messages over and over. More patient than a simp. Unless he wants to trick you. At that moment, I saw the monitor shake. The door to 802 opened, and another bear walked out of the room. Luckily, I didn't believe. I knew from the start there was definitely a problem here. This bear's build is much smaller than the previous one, but its expression and movements are just like a human's. Could it have become a spirit? Shortly after the 2 bears disappeared into the hallway, I heard all sorts of screams, and the roars of bears. Not long after, the two bears returned to my door again. It seems the people in 802 who believed it have all been slaughtered. Their fur was all stained with red blood. Many people had just been slaughtered. The two bears whispered to each other. They don't want to let me go, but this is exactly what I wanted. I feared they wouldn't come for me. This time, I want to see whether you are the hunter or the prey. This room was originally prepared for bears. I originally wanted to keep hiding and not go out. But now it seems, if I don't let them in, they won't let it go. Suddenly, a mysterious man walked out to the door. I am the zoo director. Don't worry, the bears have already been shot dead by us. I'm sorry for the trouble caused to you. If it's convenient, open the door and I will apologize to you personally. Who are you fooling? A bear that big is standing next to you. Do you think I'm blind? Luckily, I installed surveillance in advance. Otherwise, I might have opened the door for him. Open the door. I'm not a bad person. As expected, there's something wrong with the zoo director. But I just don't know how he controls these two bears. But since everyone is here, let's start with some appetizers. I used my phone to open the main door. The two bears saw the door open, extremely excited, suddenly roared. They rushed through the door one after another, as if they wanted to tear me to pieces. The zoo director hesitated for a moment, but still followed them in. The moment they entered, I used my phone to close the main door. The entire living room is a cage prepared for you. Enjoy it. Now attacker and defender had switched. I turned off the living room lights. The living room instantly fell into darkness. Anyone who has been in prison knows there is a severe punishment called the dark room. The dark room is isolated from the world. Not a single sound. Just staying there for a while will make one irritable. Mental breakdown. At this time, the two bears were rushing around the living room in panic. But the main door outside simply couldn't be opened. Once inside, don't expect to leave. After wandering for ages, the two bears seemed to realize it was useless. So they sat on the floor to conserve their strength. Beasts are different from humans. They come from nature, and can better endure loneliness. But the director was different. After only 2 hours, he began to get anxious. He began to command the two bears to find a way out. After several attempts, the two bears returned empty-handed. The director commanded them again. The larger bear showed impatience and swatted the director away with a paw. I originally thought this director could tame them. Unexpectedly, he was also a clown. The director lay on the ground, twitched a few times, and then stopped moving. That blow knocked him unconscious instantly. This is what happens when you're overconfident. I turned on the air conditioner, set it to 50 degrees. A continuous stream of hot air instantly flooded the living room. The two bears noticed something was wrong, and began looking around. Half an hour later, the temperature inside had reached 45 degrees, and was even still rising. The two bears, driven by heat, began to ram the door. But it was useless. The temperature inside had now reached 50 degrees. The two bears were also exhausted. I deliberately turned on the shower head. The water poured down. They seemed to have found a lifeline. Only they didn't notice. Every time the water sprayed, the temperature in the room would increase by 1 more degree. Now let you taste what it's like to be roasted. I electrified the living room. At this time, the entire living room was filled with water. In an instant, 220 volts of electricity coursed through the bears' bodies. Goodbye, bears. Beasts are, after all, just prey. An hour later, the police arrived at the community and took the two bears away. My life returned to its former peace. Suddenly, a scene appeared before my eyes once again. Countdown to entering the new dungeon. 2,359 seconds. What is this? Why is the countdown still moving? 23 hours and 59 minutes. That cold voice echoed in my mind, reminding me that this was only the end of the first dungeon, and the next horror is already on its way. This damn game, won't it even let me catch my breath? It's really pushing people to the brink. I have no time for sentimentality. In this eerie world, stopping means death. I picked up the mop and began cleaning the puddles and blood in the living room. The water slowly drained through the pipe I had prepared. These tiles need to be scrubbed 3 times. They're full of that beast's fishy stench. Truly disgusting. While I worked, I was rapidly calculating in my head. The first dungeon tested the durability of the door. Then what will the second dungeon be? A fiercer monster? Or some kind of extreme weather disaster? If it's extreme cold next time, will my air conditioner's heating be enough? I need to check the quilts in the storage room again. 32 I walked to the window, and looked outside. The pitch-black community. The streetlights were flickering. Those surviving neighbors are probably shivering under their blankets. I don't have the pride of a savior, because I know clearly, we are nothing more than crickets in a jar. No matter what comes in the next wave, I'm going to survive. No one is taking my life. I did a final check on the generator generator and supplies. Enough fuel, plenty of water. I turned off the main lights, lay down on the bed, staring at those constantly jumping numbers, quietly waiting for the next game to begin. The countdown continued to tick away second by second. I tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep. The phone screen kept lighting up. Those were messages from the residents' group chat. Although the bear is dead, the fear has not disappeared. Everyone was frantically discussing the tragedy that just happened. More people were mourning their deceased family members. At 8:01, since your place has electricity, could you share some? My mother has a heart condition. The oxygen machine ran out of power. Yes, your place is renovated so well. You must have food left, right? My daughter has been crying from hunger. Looking at these messages, I sneered, and didn't reply. Now you know how to beg me. Just now you called me a psychopath. When you said I was stealing things, why weren't you this polite? Just then, the door to room 802, which had been silent, suddenly opened again. I saw through the surveillance a figure wearing a red raincoat, sneaking into the hallway. Wasn't the director dead? Who is this now? The figure lingered in the hallway for a while, actually pasted a piece of white paper at every door. When he walked to my door, I held my breath. He didn't knock. He just looked at my surveillance camera, and gave a weird smile. That face actually looked exactly like the dead director. Twins? Or is this thing not human at all? Just as I was about to observe closely, the figure, like a mist, instantly vanished from the surveillance screen. Immediately after, a photo was sent to the residents group. What is this? Who put that funeral sign on my door? My heart skipped a beat. I looked down at my phone. The countdown showed only 12 hours left until the new dungeon opens. The moment the countdown hit 0, I didn't hear a deafening sound. Instead, the world fell into an eerie silence. I walked to the window. The sight before me made me gasp. The originally muggy rainy night vanished, replaced by heavy snow flying across the sky. So cold. The temperature is dropping too fast. In less than 5 minutes, thick frost crystals formed on the window. The outside temperature is dropping at a visible rate. Dropped from 30 degrees straight down to below -20. And it's still continuing. The homeowners group chat exploded. Help! My water pipes have frozen and burst. How can it snow? 123. It's so cold, really so cold. The heating isn't responding at all. Where is management? Where the hell did property management go? I immediately started the central air conditioning at home, and set the temperature to the maximum. Fortunately, when I reinforced the walls before, I added a 20 centimeters thick insulation layer. The inside is still relatively warm for now. Luckily I predicted the possibility of extreme weather. These alloy carbon fiber walls, their insulation effect is truly impressive. I dug out a thick down jacket from the storage room and put it on. Then I checked the backup power supply. Something's not right. This snow is too eerie. I looked closely, and those snowflakes seemed to be alive, squeezing their way in through the window gaps. Even though I sealed it, that bone-chilling cold could still seep in. Just then, a sound of heavy footsteps came from the hallway. It wasn't the running sound of a beast like a bear, but rather something stiff, scraping against the floor. It's here. The guests of the new dungeon have arrived. I stared intently at the monitor. A figure covered in white frost appeared. His movements were very slow. With every step, a trail of ice crystals was left behind. That was the neighbor who was just killed by the bear. His eyes had turned grayish-white. His skin was a terrifying blue-purple, but he had come back to life. Zombie. No, this is more like a puppet controlled by some kind of ice energy. That ice monster walked to the door of 301. Unlike the bear, he didn't smash the door. He simply rested his hand on the handle. A miraculous scene occurred. The security door froze within seconds. Then, like fragile glass, it shattered into pieces with a gentle push. Physical defense is useless against this low-temperature erosion. A heart-wrenching scream echoed from inside 301, but it disappeared quickly, leaving only the sound of ice shattering. I must find a way. If my door gets frozen too, then it's all over. I immediately ran to the living room, adjusted the air conditioner vents, letting the hot air blow directly at the main door. At the same time, I pressed another button. Let's try this. The thermal defense specifically prepared for extreme cold. In the interlayer on the outside of the door, the embedded high-resistance wires began to conduct electricity. The entire door instantly became scorching hot. Before the white frost outside could even get close, it was evaporated into steam. That ice monster seemed to sense the heat from my side. He slowly turned his head. His hollow eyes looked toward my security camera. Come on then. Let's see if you can freeze faster, or if I can burn faster. After feeling the high temperature of the door, the ice monster outside seemed somewhat afraid. After lingering for a while, he turned around and walked toward the elevator. Before I could even breathe a sigh of relief, the sound of knocking rang out again, but this time, it was human fingers tapping gently. Li Qing, are you there? Please open the door. My daughter is about to die. I looked through the peephole. It was the young mother from 502. She was huddled up, holding her child. Her eyebrows were covered in white frost. Her lips were frozen purple. In the original story, this woman, to snatch half a piece of bread, almost stabbed the original owner to death with scissors. I sighed. I didn't open the door. In this apocalypse, kindness is the most luxurious thing. Just leave. I can't help you. Go to the machine room on the top floor. There might still be some residual heat there. Li Qing, you have electricity and heating. Why won't you help? We are all neighbors. You won't have a good end. She began to frantically kick and slam my door. Along with her screams, the ice monster that had already left. They were drawn back, not only at the hallway's end. Surprisingly, 3 more appeared, figures also emitting a chilling aura. Time to die. This woman will attract all the monsters here. I saw in the surveillance. The woman from 502 had her shoulder grabbed by the ice creature behind her. She let out a final, desperate scream. Then her whole body quickly turned into an ice sculpture. After the monsters finished her off, once again targeted my front door. This time they didn't shrink back. Instead, they collectively pressed their hands against the door. Oh no, the heating speed of the high-resistance wire actually couldn't keep up with their freezing speed. The door let out an overwhelmed creak. Wisps of cold air began to seep into the room through the door gaps. I looked at the last fantasy weapon remaining in my hand. That was my final trump card. Since you want to come in, then let me show you what a real crematorium is. The white frost on the door grew thicker and thicker. Even though the high-resistance wire was heating up frantically, it still couldn't stop. The combined low-temperature erosion of 4 or 5 ice creatures outside, the metal door panel made a cringe-worthy twisting sound, as if it would shatter at any moment. These monsters know how to attack in coordination. It seems the difficulty of this extreme cold instance is more than 1 level higher than the black bear. Seeing the cold air about to seep through the gaps into the living room, I didn't retreat. Instead, from behind the sofa, I dragged out a half-human-height red canister. This is something I got when reinforcing the house. A high-pressure thermal sprayer specifically sourced from the black market. I originally wanted to save it for that director. Since you can't wait, I'll start by clearing the way with you. I didn't open the door directly. Instead, I operated my phone to activate the backup exhaust vent installed above the door frame. That hole was originally designed for ventilation, but now it became my firing port. Get melted. A bright, dark red fire dragon roared out from the exhaust vent, instantly swallowing those clusters of bone-chilling cold outside the door. High temperature collided with extreme cold. The hallway was instantly filled with thick white steam. In the surveillance footage, those ice creatures were caught off guard by the sudden high temperature. The white frost on their bodies melted quickly, revealing the withered skin underneath, letting out ear-piercing shrieks in the flames. Physical defense couldn't stop you. Then this 2000-degree high-temperature fire stream. You must like it, right? The leading ice creature, under the impact of the flames, its body began to peel off like shattered porcelain. Finally unable to hold on, it collapsed heavily to the ground, turning into a pool of black water. The remaining monsters, seeing the situation was bad, actually turned around and escaped into the elevator with stiff movements. After repelling the first wave of ice creatures, I didn't let my guard down. I increased the heating power of the door again, and set the air conditioner fan speed to maximum, to maintain the indoor temperature. Strange. These monsters retreated too orderly. It's almost as if someone was directing them from behind. I switched through the surveillance screens, trying to find the trace of that person in the red raincoat. However, besides the frost all over the floor, and a few neighbors frozen into ice sculptures, the hallway was empty. Just then, I noticed a detail. The survivors who were originally hiding in rooms like 201 and 301. Now, surprisingly, all their doors were wide open. Could it be that they were all captured? I slowed down the surveillance playback speed. The footage showed. While the ice creatures were attacking my door, another group of more agile gray figures quickly rushed into those ordinary security doors. Those neighbors couldn't even let out a scream before being dragged into the depths of the dark hallway. This scene made my spine chill. This wasn't a simple slaughter. It was more like a premeditated harvest. What on earth is hidden in this community? The instance the system mentioned. Does it intend to turn everyone in the building into those monsters? The homeowners group chat went silent. The last message remained as the plea for help from the woman in 502. That dead silence was more oppressive than when the black bear was smashing the door. I walked to the storage room, checked my fantasy weapon chest. There were still 2 untouched treasures inside. That was my confidence for dealing with the final climax. Whether human or ghost, as long as they dare to target my house, I'll fight you to the bitter end. The 6th hour since the extreme cold descended. The snow outside the window had already piled up to the height of the 2nd floor. The entire building seemed to have become a lonely island, buried in the white wilderness. I sat in front of the monitors, mechanically stuffing compressed biscuits into my mouth. Suddenly, a familiar figure appeared on the screen. It was that red raincoat. He appeared at my doorstep again, surprisingly carrying a steaming thermos box. This guy could actually, in a hallway at -50 degrees, move about freely. He slowly opened the thermos box toward the surveillance camera. Inside wasn't some lethal weapon, but a bowl of steaming braised pork. Mr. Lee, don't be nervous. I'm not one of those brainless ice things. I'm here to talk business. Business? You killed off all my neighbors, and now you want to talk business with me? Those good people were just low grade, but you have proven your value. This building needs a new manager. If you are willing to join us. This bowl of meat is just the beginning. I looked at that tempting bowl of braised pork on the screen, but I only felt a wave of nausea. In the apocalypse, such abnormal gifts often come with a fatal price. I have no interest in being a manager. I just want to guard my own little piece of land. Take your things and leave. The red raincoat didn't get angry. He put down the thermos box, shook a finger. Don't be so quick to refuse. Before the next countdown begins, you will beg me to come in. Because the owner of this building is about to wake up. After speaking, he turned around. His figure vanished eerily into the cold mist. I stared intently at that thermos box, my heart pounding wildly. Less than half an hour after the red raincoat left, the monitor let out a sharp alarm. On the screen, a group of ragged people were climbing the stairs toward the 8th floor. They weren't monsters, but those missing neighbors. They held axes and pipes in their hands, even some homemade torches. Everyone's eyes were filled with madness. They didn't die. But their mental state was clearly wrong. Leading them was the middle-aged man from 301. His whole body was frozen blue, yet he seemed unable to feel pain, screaming frantically while climbing. Li Qing, hand over the divine medicine, Mr. Red said. As long as we drink the divine water from your house, we will never fear the cold again. I understood instantly. That red raincoat not only used monsters to harvest, but also used human greed to drive these survivors. He wanted to use these neighbors as cannon fodder, to wear down my fortress's defenses. Divine water. That guy really knows how to make up stories. Dozens of neighbors crowded at my door. They no longer begged for mercy, but like beasts, began frantically digging at the walls around my door. They knew the door was too hot to touch, and wanted to dig through the walls. These walls are full of alloy steel plates. You won't dig through even if you try until next year. However, I underestimated their madness. They started piling flammable materials at my door, trying to melt my ceiling strips with a huge fire. What a bunch of lunatics. Since you don't want your lives, then I have no need to be merciful. I pressed the red switch under the living room floor. That was the 4th trap designed originally, to prevent bears from digging. One last warning, step back. Otherwise, bear the consequences yourselves. Facing the neighbors frantically digging the walls, I didn't hesitate any longer. Decisively pressed the trigger for the 4th trap. Then came several loud cracks. The floors on both sides of the door flipped instantly. Alloy spikes gleaming with cold light shot out, forcing the first few neighbors back. Although I controlled the force, only piercing their clothes and soles, but this sudden mechanism still made the crowd scream. This is just a warning. Anyone who dares take another step, next time, it will be your soles that are pierced. The once fervent crowd was like a bucket of cold water poured over them, retreating one after another. The middle-aged man from 301 turned pale. The axe in his hand fell to the ground, making a crisp sound. His house really has traps. Mr. Red didn't mention this. Just as the neighbors were hesitating, the red mist in the hallway thickened. The voice of the red raincoat echoed in the hallway, carrying a bewitching magic. Don't be afraid, he's only one person. As long as you rush in, you will obtain eternal life. No longer suffering from this freezing cold. The neighbors who had previously retreated, their eyes became dull and crazed once again. It was as if they had lost the sense of pain. They pushed through the spikes, attempting to fill those traps with their own bodies. These people have gone mad. That person in the red raincoat, what kind of mind control spell did he cast on them? I looked at those distorted faces on the monitor. I knew in my heart, these neighbors were no longer my kind, but walking dead controlled by the red raincoat. The assault outside the door continued, but I am now facing a more serious problem. Because the snow outside the window is too thick, the solar panels on the roof are covered. The power generation system has stopped working. The battery power is down to only 30%. The door heating and air conditioner are running at high power. The consumption is simply too fast. If the power cuts out, the insulation won't stop the extreme cold of -60 degrees outside. I must, before the power runs out, find a way to clear the snow off the roof, or get rid of those things interfering with me outside. Since you won't leave, then try the second grand gift I've prepared. I walked quickly to the living room, and pulled a hidden ring on the ceiling. A specially made strong light lamp slowly descended, aimed directly at the entrance. These ice monsters and brainwashed people probably hate strong ultraviolet rays, right? I flipped the switch. A dazzling purple light burst out instantly, through peephole and door gaps, shining directly into the hallway. A series of shrill screams came from outside the door. Those previously crazed neighbors covered their eyes one after another, collapsing to the ground. The red mist quickly dissipated under the strong light, revealing the bewildered face of the red raincoat. A UV lamp. You prepared something like this? I've prepared so many things it'll make you question your existence. The UV lamp temporarily repelled the crowd. The red raincoat also vanished into the shadows. I took the opportunity to turn off non-essential appliances, saving every single watt of electricity. When the strong light hit him just now, his shadow seemed off. I slowed down the footage to observe carefully. Under the illumination of the strong light, the red raincoat's shadow was not human-shaped, but a giant outline of a monster with countless tentacles. He isn't the director's twin at all. He is the true boss of this instance, or rather, the avatar of that master. Just as I was thinking of a countermeasure, the temperature inside the house began to drop rapidly. I had clearly closed all doors and windows tightly, but in the living room's center, an ice pillar condensed out of thin air. What's happening? Could he penetrate the walls to get in? The ice pillar expanded rapidly, actually transforming into the appearance of the red raincoat. He wasn't wearing that raincoat this time, revealing a bizarre body covered in white frost. Li Qing. You think you're safe hiding in this iron shell? Every brick and tile of this building is under the master's control. Since you've entered, don't even think about leaving alive. I lunged violently at the Iceman, the stun baton flickering with blue electric arcs. However, my body passed right through his shell, as if he were just a holographic projection. Although that Iceman looked like a projection, the cold air brought by his wave of the hand was real. The living room floor was instantly frozen and cracked. The chill pressed directly against my ankles. Damn it! Are physical attacks useless? Seeing the Iceman's hand about to touch my chest, I remembered that fantasy weapon chest I hadn't used yet. I scrambled over there on all fours, and grabbed a piece of yellow talisman paper flashing with red light. This is the Lee Fire talisman given as a bonus when buying weapons. They said it could break all evil spirits and cold poisons. I don't know if it'll work. I let out a loud roar, and slapped the talisman firmly onto my stun baton, then swung it at the Iceman once more. This time, the moment the talisman touched the cold air, a burst of crimson flames naturally erupted. The flames spread along the stun baton, forming a giant blade of fire. It's working. The fire blade slashed into the Iceman, making a sizzling sound like hot metal entering water. The Iceman let out a scream of agony. His originally illusory figure became solid. A look of pain appeared on his face. This power. How could you have such a thing? This doesn't belong in this instance. I'm a transmigrator. What's wrong with bringing some local specialties? Shatter for me. I swung with all my might. The fire blade swept across. The Iceman's body snapped in half, turning into countless ice shards scattering on the ground, and were then burned into nothingness by the flames. With the disappearance of the Iceman, the cold air inside finally dissipated a bit. I leaned on my electric baton, panting heavily. The power of the Lihua talisman was also exhausted. The talisman paper turned into a pile of ash. That was close. Without this talisman, I would have really become an ice sculpture today. Before I could sit down to rest, the entire building shook violently. It wasn't an earthquake, but rather like some giant creature tossing and turning beneath the building. In the surveillance footage, the accumulated snow in the hallway began to turn black and rot, emitting waves of a foul stench. The corpses of the neighbors who had become ice sculptures actually sank into the floor one by one. What's happening now? The countdown hasn't ended yet. I looked at the countdown on my retina. The number that was originally 6 hours actually began to jump frantically, finally turning directly into red warning text. Instance balance disruption detected. Master has awakened prematurely. Can't play fair, huh? Flipping the table because you can't win. I rushed to the window and saw the open space in the center of the complex had split open into a massive abyss. A giant, indescribable black claw reached out from the abyss, gripping the base of our building tightly. The building was slowly pulled toward the abyss. The piercing sound of snapping metal echoed through the sky. Looking at the Doomsday fortress I painstakingly built, it seemed so insignificant in the face of absolute power. Want to eat me? Let's see if you have the teeth for it. The building shook violently. But not because of some underground monster, but because the building's foundation had suffered devastating damage. I saw through the surveillance that the red raincoat downstairs was directing several small excavators, frantically digging up the load-bearing walls. To force me out, these lunatics actually wanted to collapse the entire building. I looked at the countdown on my retina. I thought it was the arrival of a new monster, but now it seems that was the final warning of structural failure. If the building tilts more than 15 degrees, this painstakingly built fortress of mine will become my tin coffin. No, I can't just sit and wait for death. Since you want to tear down the house, I'll give you a little something extra. I rushed to the console and activated the emergency reinforcement device installed on the bottom floor. Those were several thick hydraulic support pillars, originally prepared for earthquake prevention. Now they became the building's last straw of hope. Hold on tight. As the support pillars pierced the earth's crust, the building's shaking slowed down temporarily. But I knew this wouldn't last long. In the surveillance, Red Raincoat, seeing the demolition fail, actually had several huge gasoline drums brought in. He wants to burn it. Although these walls are heat-resistant, prolonged burning will cause the strength of the steel to decrease. I watched Red Raincoat directing them there, knowing in my heart that the real game had only just begun. A raging fire erupted downstairs. Thick black smoke followed the hallways and window gaps, frantically drilling its way up. Even though I had airtight ceiling, that pungent smell of tar still seeped in. This smoke is toxic. These guys added rubber and plastic to the fire. This move by Red Raincoat is extremely sinister. He knows the main door is hard to break, so he wants to smoke me to death inside. I immediately activated the indoor internal circulation air purification system. The purifier's filter is being consumed too quickly. At this volume of smoke, it will last 3 hours at most. I switched the surveillance screen, and found that the neighbors who were originally brainwashed were now being driven to the windward side by Red Raincoat. They held wet towels in their hands, looking at the fire with numb eyes. Are you all crazy? If the fire grows, you won't be able to escape either. No one paid attention to me. Red Raincoat stood in the smoke, facing my surveillance camera, and slowly raised a remote control. Mr. Lee, stop resisting. This smoke is just the appetizer. If you open the door now, and distribute the supplies to everyone, I guarantee you'll be allowed to leave safely. Distribute supplies? I think you want to turn me into the next serving of braised pork. I turned off the speaker, turned around, and walked toward the kitchen. Since you want to play with fire, I'll add fuel to the fire for you. The thick smoke grew denser, but I didn't panic. I used the infrared mode of the surveillance system to keep a sharp eye on Red Raincoat's every move. Why are this guy's movements so professional? I zoomed in on the remote control in Red Raincoat's hand. That wasn't an ordinary remote, but some kind of industrial demolition ignition device. A flash of inspiration hit me. Suddenly remembered a wanted poster I saw before transmigrating. I remember now. He is that demolition expert who's been on the run for 10 years. Nicknamed Red Fox. He's not after some divine medicine at all. He wants to blow up this building, to cover up the secret hidden in the basement. This plot wasn't in the original novel. It seems my appearance disrupted his plans, forcing him to act ahead of schedule. No wonder he's been trying to get into my room. It turns out that when I was reinforcing the house, I accidentally cut the detonator wires he buried in the wall. I immediately pulled up the electrical diagram from the renovation. Sure enough, I found in the load-bearing wall of the 8th floor several thin wires of unknown origin. Turns out I'm lucky. By a stroke of luck during the renovation, I snipped his hidden wires. Red Raincoat seems to have realized this too. He stopped shouting. Instead, carrying a black briefcase himself, he began climbing the fire escape to the 8th floor. Red Raincoat arrived in front of my door. He didn't bring the black bear, nor did he bring the neighbors. Instead, he was alone, drilling holes at the edge of my door, preparing to carry out a directional blast. Red Fox, stop wasting your effort. Those detonator wires of yours were all ready during my renovation. Cut as if they were trash wires. The movement outside the door clearly stiffened. Red Raincoat stopped his drill, silent for a moment. You really do know a lot. In that case, I definitely can't leave you alive. You think by blowing up this building, you can escape? The police have already blocked off the perimeter. Those explosions just now already alerted them. If you leave now, you might still survive. Actually, I was bluffing, because the system blocked the signal. The outside world has no idea what's happening here. But I must break his psychological defenses. Stop lying to me. A 5 kilometers radius around here is covered by my jammer. Li Qing, you're a smart person. Reconnect those broken fuses, and I'll let you live. Let me live. You even wanted to blow up those neighbors together. You think you'll let me go? I saw through the monitors that, upon hearing the word, blow up, the neighbors downstairs began to stir. Red Raincoat's lies were slowly crumbling. Seeing the psychological attack fail, Red Fox stopped hiding his intentions. He directly stuffed a piece of plastic explosive into the door gap. Since you won't cooperate, then go to heaven along with your fortress. I know well the power of plastic explosives. I immediately rushed into the bedroom, and pressed that green button I'd never used before. Whole house fire extinguishing and anti-blast system. Want to blow me up? Take a cold shower first. From the outside of the door, there sprayed a large amount of dry powder and firefighting foam, instantly wrapping the explosive tightly. At the same time, I activated the high-frequency jammer, attempting to interfere with its electronic detonators. Just then, the roar of helicopters came from the building's perimeter. A massive searchlight beam pierced through the black smoke, shining on our floor. The countdown has ended. It turns out the opening of the new dungeon was the lifting of the external lockdown. Seeing this, Red Fox's expression changed drastically. He ignored the explosives, turned around, and tried to run. But how could I let him leave so easily? Since you've come, then stay here. I operated the door, and a blast of high-pressure tear gas shot out from the peephole. Red Fox screamed, covering his eyes as he fell from the fire escape. Shouts from the SWAT team came from below. Those brainwashed neighbors all crouched down, holding their heads. I looked at the gradually dying fire on the monitor, and let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, it's really over. When the SWAT team broke through the window, I was slumped on the sofa, panting heavily. Red Fox was snotty-faced from the gas, like a dead dog, being dragged down from the fire escape by 2 SWAT officers. Officer, don't fire. I'm the reporter, and the owner of this house. I was led out of the fortress, me for over half a month. The moment I stepped out of the door, the hallway was full of fully armed officers, and neighbors who were receiving bandages. Officer, I was forced into it. It was all because of that person in the red raincoat. He pointed asterisk at us. I looked at these neighbors who once frantically smashed my door. Now they've all become more docile than rabbits. Human hearts are sometimes more fickle than bears. And cheaper. Captain, there is contraband in the fire pile downstairs. Red Fox buried detonators in the load-bearing walls. Quickly have the asterisk demolition team handle it. The captain gave me a deep look, waved his hand to have someone take me downstairs. I looked back at my front door, It was covered in scratches and scorch marks, but it indeed fulfilled its duty. Pulled me back from the edge of hell. Sitting by the ambulance, I thought everything was over, but when I subconsciously scanned my retina, that damn countdown didn't disappear. Instead, it turned golden. Stage 1 survival challenge achieved. Reward: permanent property reinforcement. Stage 2 truth investigation initiated. Not over yet. Does this system have to kill me to be satisfied? I was placed in a temporary tent outside the community, nominally for protection, actually a disguised house arrest. Red Fox remained silent in the interrogation room, while Ding Fong's investigation hit a dead end. How is it possible? Information about this community's developer. All city records were deleted. Have all been deleted. I used the fortress's built-in encrypted network, hacked into the property management's back-end database. I discovered that all the owners of this building, including myself, are on a special observation list. The bear's intrusion was no accident, although the extreme cold was a natural phenomenon, but Red Fox's appearance was definitely premeditated. I found a file named Stress Test. This community was an experimental site, built by Deep Space. Its purpose was to test human behavior under extreme pressure. So, we are all guinea pigs. The bear was let in by them. Red Fox was also hired by them. Just as I was preparing to dig deeper, hurried footsteps were heard outside the tent. I quickly put away my phone, lay on the folding bed and pretended to be asleep. Has that Li Qing not spoken yet? The renovation plan in his hands is of great reference value to us. Must be obtained. I was startled. It turns out they haven't given up yet. Even the property manager is one of them. Since you want to play, then I'll flip this chessboard. I took advantage of the gap during the guard change, slipped out of the settlement point. I didn't run away. Instead, I avoided the patrol teams, and sneaked back into that now empty building. Home is still the most comfortable, although it's just a shell now. But only here. Do I have a chance to fight back? I used the fingerprint lock to re-enter the room. The system detected my return. All defense facilities were activated again. Non-intruder detected approaching. Activate automatic defense. Don't activate it yet. Connect the surveillance footage to my phone. I want to see what these scientists actually want to do. Surveillance shows several people wearing white protective suits are sneakily entering the underground garage. They are carrying large boxes, looking like some kind of sampling equipment. As expected, they came to clean up the experimental traces. If I let them take the evidence away, I'll never clear the suspicion of resisting asterisk by force. I opened the floor compartment in the living room, and took out a high-power signal transmitter. This is the big jammer I reserved during renovation. Can directly cut off everything within a 1 kilometer radius of electronic devices. Want to clean up traces? First, let your equipment become scrap metal. I pressed the transmit button. Instantly, the lights of the entire building flickered. Cries of surprise came from the underground garage. The property manager brought several thugs, opened my door. They thought I was still at the settlement point, but didn't expect me to be sitting in the living room rocking chair, holding a glass of cola. Manager, checking water meters at midnight. This efficiency is truly high. Li Qing, you really are a variable. Hand over that file. I can apply to the company to make you our partner. Partner. Like Red Fox, being treated as a disposable pawn by you, still treating me like a SL neighbor. The thugs surrounded me, but I wasn't panicked at all. Forgot to tell you, the living room floor is now electrified. I pressed the electric shock button on the rocking chair armrest. Screams rang out instantly. Before the thugs could get close to me, they were knocked to the ground by high voltage current. The property manager, wearing insulated shoes, luckily escaped the disaster, but the gun in his hand was aimed at my head. You think these little tricks can save your life? Time to die. The moment he pulled the trigger, I activated the high-pressure water curtain on the ceiling. The water not only obstructed his vision, but also turned the entire living room into a superconductive field. Goodbye, manager. In your next life, remember to find a neighbor who doesn't love renovating. The current instantly surged through his body along the water. The property manager twitched a few times like a seizure, and then collapsed on the floor. When the first ray of morning sun shone into the living room, police cars had blockaded the whole community. This time, it wasn't regular police. It was the ST Special Task Force. This is the evidence you wanted. All the experimental records and transfer records are all in this USB drive. I stood in front of the building, watching Deep Space executives being handcuffed one by one. That system that had been bothering me. The countdown finally hit 0 at this moment, turning into a line of green text. All dungeons cleared. Host has obtained lifelong residency rights. System officially unbound. Can I finally be an ordinary person? The neighbors were gradually brought back, although the way everyone looked at me was still full of awe and alienation. But no one dared to knock on my door anymore, and no one dared to morally kidnap me in the group chat. Mr. Lee, morning. Uncle Wang. I returned to my fortress. The steel plates on the walls were still there. The spikes on the peephole hadn't been removed either. In this uncertain world, these cold metals gave me the greatest sense of security. Although the system is gone, but I plan to keep this renovation. After all, who knows if tomorrow there won't be a new bear knocking on the door.